What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, we're out here planting up some more of our fall garden. I thought it'd be a really good opportunity for us to talk about some huge mistakes I see people making when planting out their fall garden. So in today's episode, we're gonna talk about all the things that you should avoid doing when planting out your fall garden. Let's go. So last night we got down into the 40s, which is pretty crazy because it was just in like the 60s and 70s for nighttime temperatures just about a week or so ago. And it really just spurred that excitement of fall gardening. And so I came out here to plant the rest of our fall garden out because we want to make sure that the first mistake that we are not doing is we're not rushing our fall garden. Now, when I say rushing, what I really mean is I think a lot of times gardeners, they want to transition their garden very quickly from summer into fall. If you're someone that wants to plant out a fall garden, it's a common mistake to just say, all right, summer garden's done, let's plant out the fall garden. When in reality, a lot of times there are some crops that you just want to wait on. And in that case, that's kind of what we're doing right now. You know, we did plant out our fall zucchini, we did plant out some of our fall lettuce. We planted some of those out already, but there's some crops like this cilantro here that it's just too warm. You know, when we planted out our fall garden 2-3 weeks ago, yes, those crops are going to grow through the fall, but cilantro is going to grow through the fall as well, but it's a much faster growing crop, and it does not like the warm weather that we had 2 or 3 weeks ago. And because of that, we had to wait. It makes there's really no point in rushing your fall garden because there's some crops that just need to wait. Another prime example is another crop that we're growing out, which is radishes. We're gonna sow some radish seed now. If we would have sowed radish seed out 2 weeks ago, it would have been up and gone to seed way faster than it would have actually grown, and we wouldn't have really gotten anything to harvest from it. So there is nothing wrong with being patient with a fall garden, especially when you're growing these really cold weather crops that can handle the cold weather that's coming, and you don't need to rush your garden. So that's the first big mistake. The second mistake I see a lot of you guys making when you're planting out your fall garden is not succession sowing. Now, obviously, succession sowing is totally optional when it comes to your main garden, right? Succession sowing, for those of you that don't know what that is basically just planting out a row of a crop. Might be lettuce, might be radishes, could be beans, really anything like that. And then waiting a few weeks before you plant out the next row. And what that does is it gives you a prolonged harvest. Now, the reason why I say it's a mistake, because it's totally optional any other time of the year. The reason why I would say it's almost a mandatory thing that you do for a fall garden, and why it's a mistake that a lot of gardeners don't do it, is because you don't have a crystal ball as to what the weather is going to be. And there's lots of times we're gonna plant out this cold stuff, this cold loving stuff, like cilantro, like mustard greens or lettuce, or even radishes, that they don't like hot weather. And in the fall, sometimes you can have these bouts of warm weather where it'll sporadically get up into the 70s and 80s. It gets far too hot. And if you plant out your entire garden all at once and the plants don't like that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna lose out on that really precious window of time where they basically are gonna all go to seed, and then you're gonna lose all that time and then miss out on that window of time when you could be planting. And so what I prefer to do is I prefer to always succession sow almost everything in my fall garden so that I'm not getting everything all at once. And if we do happen to have a warm spell, it's not going to cause everything to be ruined. And some of the stuff that I start later will be, just germinating or still in the ground in seed form that hasn't even sprouted yet. We'll get through that bout of warm weather. If something does get ruined, we'll have some backups that otherwise might not be ruined. And so succession sow, succession sow, succession sow. It is so important, and I cannot stress how important it is in a fall garden. All right, so the third mistake that I see a lot of gardeners making when planting out their fall garden is assuming that because fall is the rainy season, we usually get a rainy season in spring and we'll get a rainy season in the fall. And because we assume that there is a rainy season upon us, that we don't need to water as much. And a lot of gardeners will just kind of let their garden go. They don't really water their garden a whole lot, and they rely on the rain to irrigate their crops because they don't want to overwater. Now, obviously, if you're getting very regular, very consistent rains, that's one thing. But presuming that your garden's gonna be fine is a whole other story. And that's why it's a mistake, is because these seeds, they're gonna germinate so much faster if you give them consistent moisture. they're going to grow much healthier if you give them consistent moisture. If you let them go dry and it gets warm and stuff like that, they're going to be stressed and they're going to really suffer, if not just die altogether. And so it is so important, so important that you give your plants adequate water. Come through here, especially as they're seeds. Seeds and young seedlings, they need a lot of water to get established. Once they're established, then you can dial back that watering a little bit, maybe rely on the rainfall. But even right now, we just put these seeds in the ground. We're gonna give them a good thorough watering, and then we're probably gonna water them once every other day, even in fall, unless we get rainfall. And when we do get rainfall, I wanna make sure the rain that we're getting is a nice steady drizzle for at least 5 to 10 minutes. If it's a little spitting of rain, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna follow up with more water. And a lot of times, I think we just always fall into that trap where, the grass is wet with dew a lot. And so we assume, well, the grass is wet with dew, there's a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture in the air, the garden's probably fine. You could not be further from the truth, and your plants need just as much water as they do in the spring or even the summer when they're in seed form. So give your plants lots of water, don't neglect them. All right, and the final mistake I got for you guys is when you're mulching. If you're someone that mulches your garden, I respect that. It's a great gardening method. Mulch helps to cut down on weeds, helps to insulate the soil, helps to reduce watering. There's a lot of benefits that mulch can provide. And a lot of gardeners, they mulch their garden very heavily in the summer to conserve water, keep the soil cooler, keep the plants less stressed, but then they transition that same mulching approach over to their fall garden. And in the fall and spring, the soil temperatures are much cooler. It's obviously much more damp. The days are shorter, right? The sun is lower in the sky. Things are just cooler and damper longer. And insects like slugs and pillbugs and earwigs, they thrive on that damp, cool, dark conditions that mulch can provide. And so it's really important that we're just careful about how we mulch, because if we invite them into their garden, if we invite them into your garden, they're gonna stay, and they're gonna stay where the food is, and they're gonna wreak havoc on your plants. And then they can also just realize that that's a better place to call home, and then you have a bigger problem in the spring as well. And so just make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Constantly check for pest damage. If you start to see signs of slugs, the slime trails on your plants, if you're starting to notice seedlings being chewed and eaten, remove that mulch. Kind of give it a little space, or maybe remove it altogether, because a lot of times in the fall, mulch is not nearly as beneficial as it is in the summer when it's hotter and drier and conditions like that. So, not saying not to mulch, but I am saying that just be careful when mulching, because I've seen a lot of gardens completely ruined by pests simply because there just wasn't that situational awareness of the fact that the gardeners that were having these pest problems were literally fostering that environment that the pests love to thrive in. So just be aware of that. That's a big mistake, and one that can definitely cost you. But those are all the mistakes I've seen people making with fall gardening. There's a few others, but I just kind of wanted to touch on the main ones. And so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider checking this one out. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you so much for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Consider doing that. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine. And if you need any garden tools, supplies, or seeds, check out MIgardener.com. We got you covered. See you guys in the garden. Bye.